Hello, welcome to Holy Girl Talks. I'm your girl Patty, and in this video, I'm going to be sharing my testimony and how I surrendered my life to God. So, in kindergarten, I had instantly came into agreement with anxiety. I remember I had developed anxiety at a young age and it had progressed over time. I remember having a hard time going to sleep at night sometimes. I would wake up or even just have a hard time being able to fall asleep because I was so anxious about tomorrow, about the next day. I even wanted to curl my hair or something to do it for school. I would be so stressed out to the point where I would even have dreams of me not being able to successfully complete a task. It was something really difficult for me as time went on. Anxiety had started right from the jump, so it turned into this full-blown thing as I got older. And I remember, I want to say, like, when I was a kid, my mom had planted seeds of God in me at a young age. I remember doing Bible studies with her, and it was so fun to me because we had like a Bible book that had like pictures of everybody. Like, it was like a picture book of the Bible, and I remember having to do little classes with my mom, with her, with my sisters. Like, she would have us there and we would write things down and we would draw pictures and stuff like that. And I remember having a good time. I remember believing in God and believing in like the stories that she was telling me, like Abraham and Sarah, Cain and Abel. Like, I remember those stories. Those really stuck with me. And I remember just believing in a God. Like, I know, like, I definitely believed in God. Over time, I just didn't further my relationship with God after that. So, I just wanted to throw that in there. I also had a really good childhood. I was pretty happy as a kid. Me and my family, my parents are really good parents. They took good care of us and raised us pretty good. I feel like we just had such a good childhood, so I don't even want to, there's nothing bad I have to say about that. I would say when life started to take a turn for me was, well, one, for example, when my neighbor passed away, it took a toll on me. I didn't know how to experience grieving, and I didn't know how to experience losing somebody that was really close to me. So I remember having a neighbor that lived next door. She was an older lady, and me and my sisters would go over there and clean her yard, and we would just enjoy our time with her. We would gamble with her, even though I know we're not supposed to gamble. I know we would gamble with her, or like she would tell us stories and stuff like that we really enjoyed listening to her. We enjoyed spending so much time with her. And I remember one day she ended up going to the hospital, and she had told us, like, oh, when I come out of the hospital, we're going to make a cake. So I'm like, okay, yeah, it was for St. Patrick's Day. And she was like, yeah, we're going to make a cake when I come out, and it'll be then, like really hyping up that she was going to come out, that we were going to be able to see her again. So I remember expecting her to come out and expecting her that she was going to be okay. I had no thoughts of losing her. I didn't expect to lose her. And one morning before school started, my mom, she called us. She told us, like, to come gather with her. Like, she's like, girls, and then we went over there, and she told us that Alice had passed away. That was her name. And I remember, like, not knowing how to deal with the grief. And me and my sisters, I remember we were like really sad at school. We were even like crying about it because we didn't know how to soak in the news that somebody we love so dearly, someone that had become a big important like person in our life, ended up passing away, and that we were never going to see her again. So it was really hard for me as a kid to cope with that, and I didn't really know how to express it to my mom or anything like that. I didn't know how to open up to them, so I just kind of kept it to myself, dealing with the grief on my own, thinking about her at night sometimes. And right around the corner from that, right after that, that's when life started to take a toll on me. I remember my parents ended up wanting to split. They wanted a divorce. They started treating each other differently. Like, the atmosphere wasn't the same. I had to learn how to deal with that, like witnessing my parents separating from each other after being with each other for like 25, like I think it was like over 25 years together. I never thought divorce was going to be a thing in my family. I've heard of people's parents divorcing, but I really just did not expect my parents to get divorced. So my mom ended up leaving the house. You know, my mom still was a part of my life. It was just different. It was a different change, and you know, it was like a big change in my life because it went from me sleeping in the same room with her making breakfast for us, her doing our laundry, you know, all those things that, you know, mom would do for you, and her having been removed from my household just changed everything. So on top of that, like, one, the change was with my parents not being together, but two, the change with my mom not being with us in the house. You know, my mom has always been there for me. Like, it's not, you know, she's always been there for me. She's always like a call away. She really wouldn't go too far, but yeah, it was just something that I was just like, what? Like, this is such a big change for me. And it really affected me, it really hurt me. As time went on, I was just like, dang, like, life isn't good anymore. And I remember coming home from school, and all the pictures in my house of my mom were gone, and my dad was in the backyard, and when I went back there, I seen a fire, and I remember seeing, like, getting closer to it, and I realized that he was burning everything. And I feel so bad at my dad. Like, I felt so bad for my dad at the time because he was really hurt. And to the point where he was getting rid of everything of her. It felt like the presence of her in this house was just gone. Anything left of her was just gone. That was pretty scary for me at the moment. At that time, I was just like, dang, like, everything that we had of my mom is gone. And it hurt even more. And like, just coming home from school, like a normal school day, and then seeing that, you know, it was really hurtful to experience. But thank God, you know, God, like, with time, my dad, you know, God healed my dad, and he was able to, like, awaken from what he was doing. He was like, you know what, this isn't worth it. This is not worth dealing with how I'm going to cope with my feelings. So he ended up getting back on track, thank God. But in that time, we had already experienced what we did, and it was just not easy for me to live life regularly. Like, it was at a point where the things that I've already experienced was already affecting my daily life. I remember going to school and looking at myself as if, like, what if I wasn't here anymore? Like, how life would be without me. And I just didn't feel peace in my life anymore. I just felt unhappy, and I always wanted my parents to get back together. I didn't really want this whole situation to come about, but it ended up the way that it ended up. So yeah, so I was just having a hard time coping with that, and I remember self-harming. I started to self-harm, and I would use the sharpener in my house, and I would take off the screws and, like, use the blades from there. I try to, like, look for things in my house that I was going to be able to self-harm with. Anything that I was able to get my hands on, I would use. And I would do it to feel a sense of relief. I would do it because it gave me control over my pain. Like, I had no control over the pain that I had, but in this way, I was able to actually control that pain. And it was a way for me to keep track of every time that I got hurt. I was like, oh, I got hurt today, let me go self-harm. So I know how many times I suffered, if that makes sense. That's kind of where my mindset was going. And I remember I would hide it from people. I didn't want people to see my self-harm. I remember when my family found out about it, and they started to hide. They would hide things that I could self-harm with. It was like, dang, like, now everybody knows about it. So I was just, like, trying to hide it. Yeah, life was just getting really worse. The anxiety had gotten worse. Depression was starting to overcome me. Suicidal thoughts were coming in. It was something I just wanted relief from. I was just getting so tormented by those thoughts, and I didn't know how to handle it. I didn't know how to deal with it. I didn't know how to tell my family about it. I remember telling my sister from here, like, sometimes, like, I would open up to her, like, oh, I feel like I'm depressed. I think I'm depressed, but, I didn't really open up to my family, and I didn't really kind of get further help from it. I was just trying to deal with it on my own. I remember as time went on, I developed panic attacks, and it got so bad to the point where like I would have to like get out of class and I would have to walk around the school just so I could breathe and calm down. I remember I had volleyball classes, and well, we would do volleyball. I was on the volleyball team, and I started to have panic attacks there too, because it triggered my heart. Every time I felt like my heart was racing, I would end up overthinking about it and getting to the point where I felt like I couldn't breathe, and then the panic attacks would set in. There was a time when I was crying out to God. I remember just crying to God, and I was like, God, like, give me something to live for. I feel like I don't have no purpose. Can you please show me something worth living for? And I remember going to sleep that night, and I had a memory. I had a dream that it was like an out-of-body experience type of dream, where like I felt like my soul was in the sky, and I'm looking above, like we're in the sky, and then there's a freeway, and there's a black like celebrity car driving down the freeway, and I see it driving, and all of a sudden my soul just end up being inside the car, and I'm the person singing in the car. And I sang so good, and it's so crazy because I love to sing. I have a passion to sing. I want to do that as I get older, or I want to do that now, but with time I'll be able to be successful in that. But in that moment, I was just like, oh my gosh, like when I woke up from that dream, I was like, I called out to God and I cried to him, and I really do think that was a vision that the Lord had showed me. So I was like, oh my gosh, like what? But over time I ended up forgetting about that dream. I feel like when I started to surrender to my life to the Lord, I was able to realize that dream was really important, was really significant to me, and I'm forever grateful that I had received that dream, that God heard me that day. I'm in my senior year, and I am stressed out. I don't know when I had that dream. I can't really remember. There was too much going on, so it could have been after, it could have been during, but that dream did happen, so I felt like it was really important to share that. This year, I remember I decided to take my life. I was like, you know what, I'm done. I don't want to live anymore. I am going to take my life. So I remember having my sister's pills that she had just gotten prescribed, and I had them in the room, and I waited for her to go to shower. So when she was showering, I was going to consume the pills. So I remember, okay, she went in. I had planned it. I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it this way. So she went in the shower, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it. But then all of a sudden I started thinking about people. I started to think about people that I loved, and people who I knew would be hurt if I killed myself. So I started to write letters, and I wrote how much I love them, and one after one I would think of this person and that person and this person, to the point where my sister had turned off the water already. I do believe that was from God. I do believe that God was protecting me and stalling in that moment. So then I'm like, oh my goodness, like I need to hurry up. I need to do something. I need to take the pills already, because now she's gonna come out and she's gonna see me, and I didn't want her to see me. So, and I didn't even get water, and dry swallowing pills, I really shouldn't be describing this, but dry swallowing pills was really difficult. So it delayed me when she came. So when she came in, I had swallowed a little bit. I had already had them in my hands, and she came in right when I don't even know if I swallowed them yet, but point is, she came in, she saw the pills, she went and called my sister, I swallowed some, and my sister came in, and she ended up she knocked out like the rest of the pills out of my hands, and I had consumed like probably maybe around 7 pills, and they ended up calling the ambulance, and I had to go to the hospital. I remember feeling so embarrassed, and I felt like I wish that I had gotten some type of remorse for what I was doing. I wish we were taught to hug each other. But instead, we're programmed to believe like we should joke with each other, we shouldn't hug each other, you know. So that's where I feel like that really took a toll in that moment, for me to get and receive like, I'm so sorry you're going through that, or any type of remorse that what I was doing, any type of nice comments to say to me while I'm going through a hard moment in my life. I didn't receive the love that I was looking for in that moment. So it was really hard. It was really hard. I felt really upset after that, like, and embarrassed. And I went to the hospital. I remember the doctor saying, like, I guess he didn't realize I was in the hospital waiting still. And I heard him say, "Oh, she only took 7 pills. That's nothing." And I got so offended. I wish I could say something to him in that moment, but I didn't. So I just felt even more like crap about myself. As I decided to, as I got out the hospital, I remember doing programs, and I remember taking like antidepressants, but I feel like it didn't really work for me. I ended up trying to resort to weed. I remember smoking weed my senior year. I remember I started drinking towards the end, and I just ended up spiraling into something more with my addictions. I had a very addictive personality, especially when I became addicted to self-harm. I eventually stopped because I had someone that I had met in the program. Her name was Karina, and she unfortunately did take her life. I had a lot of love for her, and out of respect, I stopped self-harming for her. To give a reason to get something good out of what had happened with that. Nothing good came from that. But I thought at least doing that would be my sacrifice for her, because she was young. She was so cool. We had a lot of similarities. So I got worse with my addictions. I tried seeking fulfillment in guys, and I don't know why. I just was like, okay, let me just try it that way. I didn't really feel type of, like, I remember feeling I wanted to be loved by guys, but guys didn't really choose me because I didn't have the body that everyone wanted to be with. I didn't have the body that guys were really interested in, and I remember I got bullied a little bit about that. And it hurt me so bad. I forgive whoever bullied me, because it did hurt me, but you know, I'm past it now. But in that moment, it was just really hard because, you know, like, I couldn't do anything about my body. So I tried seeking somebody to love me for who I was, and try to seek love and fulfillment through guys. And I remember getting hurt so bad in my senior year. I forgive this person. I forgive everyone who has hurt me in the past. I just remember that when that happened, I felt even more like so bad about myself. I felt so insecure. I felt unworthy. I felt betrayed, especially the way how things turned about. It was just like this person made it seem like they wanted to be with me and just needed time, and in reality they just still wasn't planning to be with me. So I was so vulnerable to this person. I told them what I was going through, and even with that, it wasn't enough. It was like, I don't care, I'm not gonna. I got treated pretty bad for me to share something like that. So I felt even more worse and unworthy about myself. I started trying to seek, maybe it's another guy, maybe I need another guy in my life. So I tried seeking fulfillment in guys, and it was just kind of like the same thing over and over and over again. That they constantly rejected me. So it was just terrible. And I remember getting into like tarot readings and trying to like get answers, like, when will I get somebody? Like, I just started to seek answers in things that wasn't right. And I remember becoming obsessed with tarot readings and getting into that as time went on. Tarot readings are not of God, and they may provide things that you want to hear. They may provide things that sound pretty accurate, but that information is not coming from God. I'm gonna say that right now. That is not from God. God is not a part of tarot readings. So just to make that clear. but yeah, so I tried seeking love in guys and fulfillment in guys, and on top of me being trying to be fulfilled with drugs, I started to indulge in drugs. I really believed that taking drugs was going to be something that cured my depression. I remember feeling like, oh my gosh, like this is healing me. Like I feel so good about myself. I felt so confident and I felt like I loved myself. I'm like, I don't even know why I'm depressed. I remember saying that off the drug, and then the effects wore off, and then you're going back to you're going back to the depression. So it's just a temporary high. It's a counterfeit to what God can really give you. Excuse me. Yeah, it was a counterfeit. Everything I was doing was a counterfeit to what God can actually give as peace. So yeah, so I just want to like make that clear. I was getting rejected by guys, and I ended up coming across my who is now my ex-boyfriend. But yeah, I remember feeling so happy that he decided to spend his time with me and to actually claim me as his girlfriend. I felt so happy. I remember crying when he asked me out, because I was like, yes, this is what I needed. This is what I am going to be fulfilled by. He's going to heal me. I really thought he was going to heal me. I thought I just needed to be loved from him. I was seeking love. I was seeking fulfillment. I was like, okay, I'm gonna get fulfilled by him. And I'm gonna say this: you are not meant to be fulfilled by the creations of this world, by the creations of God. The only way you're going to be fulfilled is through God himself. God can heal you. Jesus can heal you from everything. So we gotta seek fulfillment from Jesus and only things of God. If we seek fulfillment in people, it's nothing compared to what God can give you. So I was seeking fulfillment with him, and I wanted him to heal me, and I was wrong, and I just brought in a load of depression, anxiety, addictions, and he stayed with me for 4 years. Unfortunately, we did break up, and it affected me so much more because I still, it affected me way more than what I had been affected by the guys before, because this was 4 years being with him. My soul was so connected to this person. I was so comfortable with this person being a part of my life. I looked at it like I was going to get married to this person, and my whole plans changed. Everything changed. Dealing with change was so hard. I had experienced it before with my parents. Now I'm experiencing it again, having to get used to having to detach yourself from somebody that, for something that you were so comfortable with. And it was really difficult for me to take that all in, that we're no longer together. And I got worse. I started over looking at tarot readings because I wanted to hear that we're getting back together. And I remember thinking like, oh, let me go to the gym, maybe if I had the body, because I wasn't happy with my body before. I'm like, okay, let me add more to myself and make myself more worthy to be with if I just changed my body. And that's not it. That wasn't that wasn't going to fix anything. I needed healing. I needed to be healed. I needed fulfillment. I remember watching meditations and doing Palo Santos, I believe that's what it said, to cleanse my energy, to cleanse me, meditating. I would meditate for hours just to just to feel a euphoria that I did feel from it. I'm not going to lie. I thought it was a cure at one point, that, oh, meditation is it. This is what I'm supposed to do. But in reality, it's meditating and things like crystals and sage and all those things aren't of God either. So I still was finding counterfeits to what God can give me, and I was not healed. I still had anxiety, depression. So I had to throw that in there because that was something I was doing a lot when I was with my ex. I tried listening to sleep meditations, everything I could to seek peace. I was seeking peace, I was seeking love, I was seeking fulfillment, and I could not find it. I could not find it. So as time went on, after the breakup, I would go to work. Me and my ex, he used to work with me. He doesn't work with me anymore, but right after the breakup, it was for a long time that he was still there. And I remember feeling even more like so bad about myself because I had to be reminded that we were no longer together. And having to see him at work every single day, it hurt me so bad. Having to see him there hurt me so bad. I didn't know how to deal with it. I did not know how to deal with it. I dealt with it with everything I knew. Everything I was used to. I was dealing it with drugs. I was dealing it with alcohol. I was still trying to go to the gym and I wasn't even taking care of my nutrition, so it was such a waste. It was such a waste. I got so bad. I got so paranoid. No longer sleeping. If I did sleep, it was like I would have a hard time sleeping. I would have dreams of my ex. I used to never have dreams of him. And all of a sudden, when we're broken up, I'm having all these dreams of him and constantly not being able to run away from it. The reminder that we were no longer together. So it was really hard. It got to the point where I was just going to take my life. I didn't trust anybody. I didn't care anymore. I got to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm done. So I had already been, I was just like, depression's forever, anxiety's forever. My addictions, they're too much. I did a lot of stuff to please my flesh and things that were not good for me. And I'm like, you know what, I got so destroyed and so overconsumed by it. I just had no control over myself. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna take my life. It was so late and I was like, okay, I'm gonna just do it. I don't trust nobody. I'm just gonna do it. I didn't feel worth anything. So I remember reaching, and it was a moment like, oh my gosh, this was such a supernatural encounter. It was as if God said, Satan, you can't have her anymore. You can't hurt her anymore. And I remember, it does say in the Bible, like, how the devil blinds those so that they don't see the full glory of God. And I remember as if God removed the spiritual veil over my eyes. It was like a black film that he took off of my eyes. I know they say something about like scales over their eyes and something like that, like the scales over their eyes. I feel like as if he took the scales off my eyes, and that I was finally able to see truth. I was finally able to see the glory of God and to understand that like this is the devil who's been attacking me this whole time, that I need to go to God. I need to go to God. He told me, go to your tia, go to your friend. And they were both Christian. So I remember calling my tia the next day and just telling her what had happened, that I had a spiritual encounter with God, that you know, I don't know if I told her I wanted to live for God in that moment, but I remember her telling me that she can come and get rid of all the demonic things in my room, and I was totally okay with her to do that. My room, you guys, was a mess. A mess. Like depression, like I had no way of taking care of myself. Excuse me. I had no way of taking care of myself. Excuse me. I had no way of taking care of myself that I couldn't even take care of my room. But I was like, okay, Thea, come get rid of the things that are in my room that don't belong there, that shouldn't be there. And I'm gonna say this right now. My room is clean. My room has been clean. I've been able to finally keep up with my room. So glory to God. I'm so happy about that. I'm so proud of myself. Like nobody but me. Like I'm just gonna throw that out there. But yeah, so she came over, and I remember she started to remove things, and I remember feeling so anxious. I was like, oh my goodness, she's taking away all my stuff. She's taking away things that I had, that I was like addicted to, or like things like that, like things that I shouldn't have, that I started to, like, I guess, manifest in a way. And my tia just like looks at me, and she's like, can I pray for you? And I'm like, yes, because I felt so anxious, and I was like, yes. So she grabbed my arms and she started praying for me, and I remember I felt so much like if y'all know about deliverance is like literally spirits leaving your body. Like, I had so much like, I felt them leave my body from here to like coming up out of my mouth. I'm not exaggerating. I felt something coming up. I remember like almost like getting to like a panic attack when I was experiencing her praying those things out of me and casting those demons out of me. I literally almost collapsed. My legs almost buckled from underneath me. I did not know I was that much oppressed from demons. I did not know I was depressed from them. I didn't know that was the reason to why I was even experiencing all these problems, this oppression that I was going through. So I remember after she did it, I felt so free and peaceful. I became on fire for God after that, and I started going to church with her. I had been going to church. I go to Bible study. I go to church. I try to go to church every other Sunday. So I do want to go every Sunday, but I can't, so it's every other Sunday, and sometimes I can't either, but you know what, I'm still getting into the process. It's also like I read my word now. I use things of God. Like, I've never felt so much peace than I have right now. God freed me from depression. He freed me from anxiety. He freed me from addictions. I just had to surrender everything to Him. I surrendered everything to Him. I'm like, okay, God, your ways, I'll let you do your way. I didn't want my life. I did not want my life, so I give you my life. And I've been devoted to Him. It's been like almost like 7-8 months since I've been living for Christ now. Maybe even a little bit over 8 months, but yeah, so devoting my life and constantly trying to live a life for Him has been great. It's not easy. I'm gonna say that it's not easy because you're dying to your old self. I am allowing my old self to die, and I'm allowing God to remove certain things from my character that did not need to be there. I am letting Him sanctify me, to mold me and refine me, but you have to come as you are. You come dirty to God. You don't come clean to God. People think that, oh, I can't come until I finish this, do that. But God's going to help you get through those obstacles that are separating you from Him. You just have to devote yourself to Him and give your life to God. God has so much He wants to do for you. God wants to set you free. God not only has set me free, but He sent many people free. And all we have to do is just listen to His word and, read His word, get to know who God is. God is an amazing dad. He's an amazing father, and He just wants a relationship with you. He doesn't want religion. He doesn't want you to do things out of like, not from your heart. He wants you to do things from your heart. I don't use things to heal me that are of creation anymore. I don't use things to please my flesh anymore. I use things of God to heal me. I use the word. I use church. Whenever I'm going through something, I want to go to church. I talk to God. I use things of God. I use worship to help me. I use so many, like, this is what I was meant to do. This is what I was meant to use to help me, not use other things that were not of God. It just made it worse. They were all counterfeits, but this is the actual peace. This is the actual love. God is love. And I feel so loved. I feel so worthy. I feel so worthy because I know who my Father is, and He has told me who I am. He wants you to feel worthy. He loves you so much that he came as a human and died for you, for your redemption, for you to have a chance to be with him in heaven. That's how much he loves you. He came down himself as a human, lower than the angels, for you, to sacrifice himself for you. So you're so valuable. You're worth sacrificing for. So I do recommend that you do build a relationship with God, whether it's reading your Bible, whether it's going to church, but do it with your heart. Don't do it because you have to. Do it because you want to. God loves you so much. Jesus is here. Jesus loves you so much. He is willing to set you free. He is here for you. So thank you to everyone who is watching. Thank you for listening, and I hope that this touched you. I hope this opened your heart and opened your mind to give your life to Christ and to let go of what you're holding on to, because most likely what you're holding on to is doing more damage than it is helping you. But alright, thank you so much. I'm gonna let this go here. Bye.